Hey, this is the Hard Truth of Tony Shaffer, powered by Sig Sauer, never settle. I had a choice of what I carried in combat. I always carried the best. You should carry the best. Best Sig Sauer, never settle. Also, we are on the America Out Loud Talk Radio Network and their podcast network. Check us out, Project Sentinel, projectsentinel.com. On X, we are Project PRJ_Sentinel. Can't miss us. And you can find older versions of the show, which are equally new and value, at thehardtruthwithtony.com. Catch up and see what we've done in the past, but we've had some great shows lately. And without further ado, we are joined by my friend Wayne Black. Wayne is a individual who's been invested in security all of his life. He's the former security advisor, assistant, body man, whatever you want to call it, of Don Rumsfeld, or our friend Don, Secretary of Defense, former congressman. And Wayne's here to talk about a spectrum of things. We're taping on the 9/11 anniversary, but we'll be talking about his book, School Insecurities, and things like that. But without further ado, Wayne, welcome to the Hard Truth.
Tony, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So we were just talking about Don. I'm pretty open about this. I miss Don. Don Rumsfeld was a man who I think was a lot more in tune with helping the American people and protecting the country than people fully understand. And I know he gets a raw deal for 9/11 today. We're taping on the 9/11 anniversary. First off, my heart goes out to those who lost loved ones, who are still suffering. I'm appalled, by the way, just on a personal note, that you had the sitting vice president have the gall to compare 6 January and the disruption of the proceedings to the 9/11 attacks. And I don't have to remind you, Wayne, we had thousands of people die that day, and we had only one person die on 6 January, Ashley Babbitt, who was shot by a Capitol Hill policeman. And the equivalency is not there. And I want to make it clear, in my judgment, the fact that you would have Kamala Harris go so low to try to score political points, which, by the way, I think it fell flat. I think it's horrible that we have someone like that in office. What are your thoughts on that, real quick, before we talk about Don?
I agree with you. At the debate last night, Kamala Harris said that police officers died January 6th. That's totally not true.
Right.
One officer had a stroke, that he had an aneurysm from before, and he had a stroke. The only person that died on that January day was Ashley Babbitt, and I think that was probably an accidental discharge based on the poor gun handling of the officer that shot her in the neck. But it's not comparable.
No. So, but what is comparable is the fact that today's anniversary, a lot of people did brave things. One of the people who did some brave things, which again is, I think, way underappreciated and not actually noted to the significance and history it should be, is Don Rumsfeld. Don Rumsfeld, Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld, was at the Pentagon at the attack. I don't know if you knew this. I was supposed to be at the Pentagon that day. I was in uniform that day. I was on reserve status. I was Major Shaffer, and I was supposed to meet with Bob Winchester. Bob was part of the Pentagon's congressional liaison team. He represented Army intelligence, and we were supposed to meet and discuss extending the mandatory retirement dates of people like me. For example, I hit my mandatory retirement date. I hit 28 and a half years of commissioned service. I got retired. That was 10 years ago, and I'm 62 now. I could still be doing stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like I could still be doing. I mean, what the? But so that was the topic of discussion. Anyway, so he got stuck on Capitol Hill at breakfast, and he called me. Says, "Hey, I was at Clarendon. We had a. It's not a secret now, but we had a classified location. We operatives at Clarendon, there in Arlington." And he called me, says, "Hey, don't come to the Pentagon. Don't come to my office. I'm going to be stuck on Capitol Hill," which saved my life because his office and the entire DIA financial staff and a guy named Chuck Sabin, who, by the way, cut the funding of my operations and prevented me from stopping the 9/11 attack. So I guess Chuck, buying it, just saying, maybe you shouldn't have cut my funding. Maybe Chuck, God bless you, but maybe you should have thought twice about cutting funding from an organization trying to stop terrorists. Just saying, wasn't probably your wisest move. Anyway, I don't mean to rattle the dead, but at the time, I was told not to come, and I didn't, and otherwise we would have all been caught in the conflagration. But my point being is that when it happened, Don did some pretty brave things, right? Right, Wayne?
He did. Well, he was actually in a meeting about terrorism with some staffers when the plane hit the Pentagon. It came in low, as you know, right into the chapel area. The whole place shook. There was a fire. His protection team wanted to move him and evacuate him. He refused and went into the fire and helped carry bodies out. So
Yeah.
there's actually video of him and pictures of him, the acting, I mean, the current Secretary of Defense at the time, carrying people out of the Pentagon when it was smoking and on fire. So that really tells you a lot about a man, you know, an old Princeton wrestler, one-on-one, mano a mano, and that was his whole personality, as you know well.
Yeah. Well, people don't remember he was an aviator during the Korean War, for goodness sake. You know, he flew combat missions in Korea. It's like the guy was actually a warrior. And this is one of the sad things about the way American politics are. Man, if you get on someone's ugly list on the left, it's like all over. Oh, of course, unless of course you're Dick Cheney, and well, we used to hate you, but now we love you because you love our person. So you know, it's really strange. But no, Don was committed to the truth no matter what. And for those of you, I know you're going to be people are rolling their eyes. Well, he was part of the 9/11 issue. The 9/11 issue. Let me tell you about the 9/11 issue. Just be very clear on this. Don and I were sitting together in the Fox News green room 10 years ago. This 10 years ago today, and we were talking about the 9/11 attacks, and we're sitting across from each other. And as you know, Wayne, he's very direct. He doesn't pull punches. So we're sitting there, and I saying, you know, Mr. Secretary, it's good to see you again. I said, you know, there's still something between us. And he looks at me, says, "Yeah, Tony, Abel Danger." Just like that. Just like I was shocked. It's like, yeah, there is. And he looks at me, says, "Why is that?" He puts it back on me. I said, "Well, and it's like thinking on my feet. It's like, well, to be polite and direct, well, they lied to you." And I explained how, like, look, we were just trying to get you to tell you the truth that, you know, we knew way more about the 9/11 attacks than you were told. I mean, I don't think and he looked at me, he says, took a deep breath, and he said, "Tony, that wasn't the only thing they lied to us about." And he was completely sincere. It's like, and I knew at that point, it's like, man, they pulled the wool over his eyes on a number of things. And I think that's true. I think people like him come in, they do their best. Another guy that I advised and worked with is Joe Dunford, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Joe Dunford. They hated Joe because he just wouldn't play their game. And I think anybody who doesn't play their game, and I've heard that the snowflakes, Don was famous for snowflakes, like these little notes he'd send down to people, and he wanted answers. Who? He's like, "Oh my God, the Secretary of Defense actually is engaging us and making us do our work." So I think, you know, and plus you knew this too. He didn't have a desk. He stood. He had a thing he stood at to do his work.
You know,
So
Tony, he took that desk with him. He paid the DOD and the Pentagon for that wooden desk, and he took it with him to his office in D.C. And he would not sit down; he would stand there. So,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he was 10 years my senior, and he wore me out on those trips. We traveled all over Central Asia and the Caucasus, everything from Mongolia, Azerbaijan, Georgia,
Yeah.
Uzbekistan. He was fantastic. So 10 years with him running security, what an experience that was for me.
He was a great man, and I don't want to hear from anybody being critical. It's like he was a great man, and I think he was misunderstood, and I think the history will see that he was in many ways right ahead of his time. So anyway, with that said, let's get on to talking about things more current. So notably last night, besides demeaning the families and fallen of the 9/11 attacks, Kamala Harris just wasn't. Well, she's not a bright person, and I think in many instances where uh, logic and common sense would probably be the thing to go to. She goes to rhetoric and damaging. Uh, uh, I don't even know what to call it. It's not even logical or pre-thought responses. It's just kind of emotions, like, oh well, we need to feel a certain way, and one of the ways we're supposed to feel apparently is that she and Biden have done work to reduce crime. I was like, I don't feel that way, and she kept trying to refer to the FBI numbers, and it's like the numbers are cooked. They've removed the most prominent left wing cities from that count to make it appear like uh, violence is it's not. So let's talk about that, and we'll go towards the school issues that we'll talk about later. But what do you think about the fact that they're cooking the books on that, Wayne?
Well, that's not unexpected. Look, it's that whole the deep state thing. If you don't prosecute crime, and if you let people out right away, like they do now in the big cities,
Mhm.
then you don't have the same crime stats. Remember, that's voluntary on the part of those liberal cities to contribute to the FBI. So
Right.
if I have 20 murders in my city and I only submit to the FBI report 10 of those, I've got that 50% reduction.
Yeah.
The truth, though, is talking to the cops and looking at people in the news reports, and the same thing with what's happening in Springfield and Aurora. They wanted us to believe, the mayor of Aurora wanted us to believe that our lying eyes didn't see that Venezuelan street
I
gang
know.
breaking into apartments with long guns. So we saw that, but that's the way things are. I hope the Americans are smart enough to realize what's happened. You notice in the debate last night, she didn't reject or even respond to the millions of people that she, as the border czar, and Joe Biden allowed to come across the border. We were just totally out of control. Whatever that number is, let's say it's 15, it's probably 20 or 25.
I think
Because
it's 18 or better. Yeah, I think it's
yeah,
18 or
yeah.
better.
And the amount of terrorists, 1,000 or 2,000, those are the guys that were not smart enough not to get caught.
Yeah. Well, but beyond that, I think the fact is they once they're in, they can self-organize, and I think that's one of the dangers we're faced with right now. And I'm working with the network, NYPD, and some of the former NYPD guys and DHS. We're trying right now to reestablish essentially what used to be the NYPD's informal information sharing network, which, the mayor of New York kind of destroyed, and that current commissioner destroyed. I don't know why that is. Why is it that you get these lefties in there and they destroy things at work? I don't get it. But anyway, so New York is really the NYPD has been diminished because of politics, and the politics have to do with the corruption at the top, and those guys are all probably going to go to jail. Just saying, from what I'm seeing. But beyond that, I think we recognize that DHS is not adequately prepared to deal with the information sharing of local law enforcement. Now, I'm a big believer in the Constitution. I believe constitutional officers like the sheriff should be the ones in the lead on this. But the problem is, and I think it's one that it's not all bad, is that there's no federal control of sheriffs, nor should there be. But there should be a way of them coordinating more readily, because I think what we're going to see here is more organized criminal and terrorist efforts like Venezuela. What do you think about
I agree with you. Look where we are. We're 23 years after 9/11. Osama bin Laden is dead. Hamza bin Laden, his son, is now running Al Qaeda. We've got an open border. We've got people from 150 different countries coming here: Iraq, Iran, Nigeria. They're not coming here to pick strawberries,
that?
right?
Yeah,
They're
no,
going to
they're not. No.
come here to get organized.
Yeah.
And we look weak in the world, starting
Yep.
with the surrender of Afghanistan, what we're not doing for Israel, all those kinds of things. So we're sitting ducks. Look, with the political director of the FBI coming on national TV in front of Congress and saying all the red lights are on, he's never seen it this bad for a apparent terrorist attack. That's a clue. We're really in pretty bad shape. We're
Yep.
really insecure right now.
Well, and that's what I want to hit next. So, and by the way, I guess you probably heard this morning that Kamala Harris did such a great job that Taylor Swift endorsed her for president. That changes my vote. I've got to abandon Trump now. And
Me too.
did you hear she's got a new song coming out? I knew you were trouble when you ate Fluffy and with barbecue sauce. That's a great song. It'll be a campaign theme for the Harris campaign.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. But I'm going somewhere with this because the Haitians now, But did you hear? Oh, we David Muir. We called Springfield, Ohio. By the way, I went to college in Dayton, in Fairborn, just south of there, so it's Wright State University. It's like Oh, we called the public, the city manager, and he said there's no cats missing. Dude, come on, it's propaganda.
Yeah,
And I
like
just,
he keeps track of the
yeah,
cats.
I
And so,
know, I know. It's like, oh yeah, no, we're tracking all the cats. We got the big board over here, and the cats are all just fine.
and of
So
course, all those people that say they ate my cat, and the picture of the guy walking down the street with a dead animal,
I know,
those are all, we shouldn't believe that. But
I know.
I didn't know about Dayton. I grew up there. I went to Wright State University also.
Did you really? I didn't know that, Wayne.
Yeah,
Yeah, I went there from 82 to 86.
yeah. Well, I got there a little early, about 10 years ahead of you, but yeah, I was there.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, it was created in the 60 in six, I think it was 67 they started it.
Mhm.
And anyway, so no, I got a degree in political science and environmental studies, believe it or not, which, some of us actually do care about the environment. We just recognize what they're saying about it is it's all a lie, just saying. But speaking of lies, so notably, all the stuff that was discussed to include law enforcement, homeland security, and national security, they gave her a big pass. Trump did his best to call her out, called out the Afghan decision, called out the issues. And I thought, let me just throw this out there. I thought when she tried to defend herself by saying, well, they sent me over to talk to Zelensky 3 days before the invasion. It's like, I don't think that deterred anybody. Do you think, Wayne? I mean, that was kind of like, that kind of proved Trump's point, right?
Well, remember what Biden said. This is a quote: "As long as it's only a minor incursion."
Yes,
So that was after Afghanistan. So that was a signal for Putin. Come
of
on
course.
in. Yeah,
So I just don't think that anything she says can be taken with any credibility. And I believe that I don't believe that the debate changed the trajectory of both campaigns. I think Trump's gaining. I don't think this is going to change him gaining. I don't think she won over anybody. I think the only thing she did that benefited her is that they recovered some of the shaky uh, progressives. Because if you note, she went back to use the same old Biden lies, and then she amplified those lies by going through and reminding people, well, my principles are the same. So it's code for, don't worry, as Bernie Sanders said, I'm just saying what I have to get elected. So y'all don't worry. My principles are the same. So how should we interpret what she's saying?
yeah. I think you're right. Bernie Sanders really let the cat out of the bag. He's probably
Yeah.
sorry that he said that, but it was truthful. My beliefs haven't changed.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing. Look, same thing with fracking. Okay, she's not going to stop fracking, but can you imagine the regulations?
Oh, yeah.
The regulations that she can impose are not going to allow fracking.
Right.
Uh,
Well, as part of the issue is that is it true that we are producing more energy, gasoline, fossil? It's not fossil fuel. Are we producing more hydrocarbon fuel than ever? Yes. But the problem is, and what raised the price is futures. And I Trump tried to get this out. And this is where General Holt and I was like, I wish he would have let us come and coach him. What he should have said is that it's not about the fact that they're producing record levels of fuel. It's the fact that they've restricted it. So, like you just said, they put such restrictions on it and they're trying to curtail future exploration. That's why the prices are high, because there's a recognition at some point that the supply is going to be lower than the demand. And that's why you see right now the price is continuing to be high. And he could say, my intention is to open up the spigots, allow for the logical extension of exploration to the point necessary to expand the economy. That's the thing to say, and most people get that. And
yep.
unfortunately, he didn't clearly state that. But that's what I think. That's what he said, but didn't say as clear as he could. So how do you think that with this point, Wayne, we should work regarding countering her message, because clearly she's lying. I mean, I don't think anybody on our side takes her seriously.
Well, I think we got to go back to the real simple stuff. Are you better off now than you were, 3.5, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
I think we have to remind people that Trump filled to the capacity the strategic oil reserve. They have drained it to get
Oh
prices
yeah.
down for political reasons. I mean, really everything they've done. If you look at Casey's book, he said in the SecDef Casey, he said in his book that Biden was on the wrong side of every international decision.
Yeah.
He was the only guy in the room that suggested to President Obama that they should not go after Osama bin Laden.
Insane. Insane.
Yeah. He's a
Well,
stubborn guy.
well, he's got, and I think Trump's got to continue to tie Harris to Biden, because you and I both know if you're mentored by somebody, you tend to pick up some of their traits, and the only traits that Joe Biden has to give to Kamala are all bad, and I think that's something that's been very apparent.
She's coming in though with more left-wing traits than he had, even.
Oh yeah,
believe it or not, because she's, look at her dad. Look at what she wants to do. Tax on unrealized income.
totally insane. Totally insane. And that would destroy two things. First, static investment. People would be divesting themselves of a lot of the things that they think they're going to actually have to sell others to pay the tax. So that means that goes. And then of course, future investments. Like, who's going to take the chance investing in something if it all of a sudden takes off? Gee, you owe the government $5 million, but it's only worth 10. Yeah. So you have to sell it, I guess, to figure it out. It's that bad, and I think it's meant to be bad. And I think this is where I don't believe her for a minute. I think Trump did a good job of explaining his view of Obamacare. I don't support Obamacare. I think Trump did what he thought was best to save it. I don't think it's a good idea, but he did what he did. But I don't think for a minute she stepped away from single payer. I think she wants the government in charge of that, Wayne. I think she's lying about that. What do you think?
I do too. I think she was lying about most of what she said.
Yeah.
Changing my beliefs, like you said, is code word for, okay, I'm going to do whatever I have to do, like what Bernie Sanders said. So I think God help us if she gets elected.
So a little bit closer to home, the issues of the Second Amendment. She has said, and by the way, just a few days ago, that she and Tim Walz, did you know that he is a big fan of Peter Pan, and he has patterned his life around Tinkerbell? It's a really amazing. It's a great story. I think he probably took night classes to learn how to do ballet. I mean, if you see, he dances around when he moves. So I admire a man who's, able to get in touch with his feminine side. And Tim Walz, if you're listening, we don't care if you're light in your shoes. Really, we don't care. It's okay. Just be who you are, really. But my point being, Wayne, is that they both, Tim Walz and Kamal, have said they want to take assault rifles. They've flat out said it. And yet she lied and said, "Oh no, we're not going to do that." Well, within the last 3 days, she said she was. So, how is there any way to circle that square?
Not at all. She's talking about buyback, but she uses the word mandatory in front of it. And that's weapons confiscation. Look, it didn't work in Cambodia. It didn't work in any other country that tried it. For the people, it worked for the government. Then they could really oppress their people. That happened in Venezuela. I mean, just take a look at where they are now.
Yeah. Well, that's my point. It's kind of like, so right now, as I sit here within, arms, well, that's 2 meters. I've got an AR ready to go in case I need something. I know this may come as a shock, Wayne, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to attack me. It's not the gun. I'm just saying, it's like it's not the gun. It's the fact you have people who are unstable, terrorists and others who will get the gun, and I think that's the issue they continue to ignore. And just recently, this kid, I've seen all these things. This 14-year-old who shot the folks in Georgia. They want to come up with all these different programs. They want buyback. They want all these checks. They want certain classes of red flag laws. Not a thing they're proposing would have stopped that. Not a thing. Not a thing.
Well,
yet somehow, go ahead.
What would have stopped it is what they didn't talk about too much until the lady came forward and said, "My sister called the school."
Exactly.
So, with schools that have a thing called OCB, observable concerning behavior, if they have a policy to look and talk to kids that come to school, look different, smell different, act different, they got bruises, whatever it is, they're talking about different things, and deal with it at the time in terms of counseling and things like that. And if they're really off the charts, then you get them out of school and you prohibit them from doing it. If they'd have done that with a guy in Parkland and kept him out of school for sure the first time, all these school shooters exhibit red flags. And this guy in Georgia did the same thing. So
Yep. Well, we're going to talk more about that second part of the show. We'll let you talk more about school insecurities. That's what we're here to talk about when we bring in the rest of the team, when we bring in Chris and Elizabeth. So anyway, in the meantime, we'll just take a short break. Be sure and check out Wayne's book, School Insecurities. Wayne Black. We'll be right back after this short break. And this is the Hard Truths, Tony Shaffer, part 2, still powered by 6 Hour. I had a choice of what I carried in combat. I carried the best. You should carry the best 6 Hour. I got my Legion 320 45 ACP. I carried the 45 when I was a lieutenant. Yeah, there you go. It's a great weapon. This is a great carry weapon. I do carry it.
Cool.
I don't buy these things to look at them, So I don't. It's true. Anyway, and so we are on the America Out Loud Talk Radio Network, on their podcast network. Check us out, Project Sentinel, projectsentinel.com. Oh, and I forgot to mention Swiss America. Swiss America, call today and get your free copy of The Secret War in Cash. 800-289-2646. Tell them Tony Shaffer sent you. Again, 800-289-2646. There's a war on cash. Be prepared. They'll give you some good guidance, advice, and other things that will help you prepare you and your family for any financial challenges that come. All right, we're Project Sentinel, Project Sentinel. I mentioned that. We forgot to mention the Twitter. X, sorry.
Hey, whatever.
RJ_Sentinel. And then here are past shows on the hardtruthsoftony.com. I forgot to mention Cherie Curry. I'm wearing Cherie's and Cherie and Marie's shirt from Japan.
Awesome.
Obviously, the Godzilla didn't get them when they were there. Thank God. That Godzilla stuff can, get out of hand, as you know. So you can check them out this 1st of November. You can hang out with them at Whiskey A Go-Go in LA, which I'm going to be there, and we're going to have a lot of surprise guests there. John Ford Coley from Nights Are Forever Without You, and I guess they are. I don't know. I mean, I should ask him why he wrote that song. Just saying. Well, I'm serious. Like, that's kind of interesting. Anyway,
I'm sure there's a reason behind it. Yeah.
I'm sure there's a reason. I'll ask John. It's like, we're friends on Facebook too. John, Wayne, believe it or not, we're all friends on Facebook. People don't get this. Like, we really do stay in touch with each other. It's like, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we actually like each other.
We are joined by the rest of the crew, the irrepressible Elizabeth Breckenkamp, and the tagonist, Chris Cordani. And that's a real word. Tagonist is a real word.
I'm a pro and antagonist.
Not
antagonist, but
no, it's tagonist. T-A-G.
Right.
O-N-I-S-T. That's right. That's a real word.
Right.
I'm telling you.
I'm the David Muir of this program. So I'm gonna go after Tony only and not Elizabeth.
That's right.
There we go.
You're not going to
don't go after
me.
Wayne.
I can say
don't
anything.
Go after Wayne. So, but anyway, and again, welcome back, Wayne. We're happy to have you in the program finally. So one of the things we were talking about is what's up with schools. So much of what's going on right now, I think some schools more than others get it. I think you've been at the forefront of trying to help educate parents and facilities, people, places, and things regarding what needs to be done regarding school security. So tell us a little bit about what you've been doing lately and what you think we should be paying attention to right now as we roll into the fall.
So I've been traveling around the country doing assessments, life safety and security assessments at schools, and it really takes an outside set of eyes that is not encumbered by politics to tell them where the holes and the weaknesses are. So I've been doing that, and we're also training local law enforcement and school security, mostly private school security, and firearms training. So some of our schools around the country have gone to long guns. You'll appreciate this. 5.56 Bravo Company rifles, really light, beautiful rifles, and they're carrying them in cases behind they're in their golf cart, lock cases. So
wonderful, good deal.
Yeah, so they can engage. But look, if you think, let's look at the first Georgia news release after the shooting. The sheriff, we call this a spontaneous utterance, got on there. He was a little emotional. We can't blame him for that. But I was taken back when he said, I never thought I would be here today talking about a school shooting. So that says it all. He never thought, which is another way of saying, we really didn't plan for this. we couldn't imagine this. So that's that normalcy bias, Tony, that you and I've talked about so many times.
Oh yeah.
If it's predictable, it's preventable. So plan for it. They need to plan for it. How did this guy get in school with a long gun after they knew he was troubled anyway? How did that happen? Did they have a single choke point? Are they checking backpacks? What is it that they could have done better?
Well, I think that's the thing that we have to examine here, and I'd like to get your guidance on it. So I just mentioned during break, and I'll bring it up to the audience. We're not trying to hold anything back. My son's a senior in high school. Not a day goes by I don't worry about him because there are a number of factors which play out that I have no control of. He has no control of, and I believe the school has a marginal control of, and that's where the culture comes into it. They have, Wayne, just so you know, the local, and I'm not. Don't take this as me bad mouthing local law enforcement, because I'm not. John MacArthur is a senior deputy here in Chewan County. They do a great job. They will roll out. They'll be in school. There's a full time deputy in the school. I think that they're always trying to anticipate things, but this is the deal. You've got gangs competing for access to the students. You've got guns which are roving around the community. You have kids who are troubled because, surprise, surprise, their parents are drug dealers. And one of the things I heard recently was that there were girls fighting in the school because their parents were competing drug dealers, and that violence, at least in this case, was only fist to fist. But that's what's going on. You have this larger issue of culture that permits, but the parents just don't care. And so the schools, for better or for worse, are left with dealing with that. So Wayne, how do you counsel schools to look at the fact that some parents just aren't going to care? What do we do about that?
So schools have to make a decision, a non-political decision, that they're going to have a zero fail environment and a good perimeter and a good choke point coming in. It's really that simple. A lot of public schools aren't willing to do that. Remember, you get elected to a school board, they're political, some Democrats, some Republicans. They can't agree, Tony, on what color furniture to put in the waiting room.
I know.
So when I talk to them, they say, well, we don't have a budget. And then I respond, well, what's a child's life worth? And by the way, how much money do you spend on that teacher's trip to Las Vegas every year, that boondoggle? So what's a child's life? I can tell you 100%, this is 100% true, that once you have a school shooting, your community, your school, your families, even if you don't lose a child, will never be the same. That changes everything. And it's a non-recoverable event. Schools might say, well, we're strong, we'll get through it. Yeah, they knock down the school, parents get divorces, and just everything goes sideways. And the ones that can afford it move their kids to private schools that have typically far better security by comparison around the country than public schools.
So I'll leave it over to Elizabeth. Do you have anything?
Yeah, so I was looking at several reviews of your book, School Insecurity, and I didn't realize you had so much experience. I mean, I knew you worked in security. You worked with Donald Rumsfeld, but this says you have more than 45 years of security experience in both public and private sectors. And so I was reading different reviews, and I guess obviously we want people to buy your book, but what I'm wondering are what are like the main points of, when parents read your book, what do you think are like the most important things that they should actually be doing to help make a difference in their kids' schools?
Okay, that's a good question. Thank you. So I put my assessment checklist in the book. I can't be everywhere. So literally my assessment checklist is in there. Parents and
Oh,
grandparents,
cool. Okay.
parents and grandparents should stand up, go to that school board meeting, talk to the principal, and ask them, starting, who's in charge of security? Who owns it? And if something happens, who's going to eat it? Because we want to hold you responsible. And are you doing these things? Are you having lockdown drills? Do you lock the doors? Are all the doors locked during classes? All those items in that probably 10, 15-page checklist. So that's
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's the value of it. It's really a guidebook for parents, grandparents, and then thirdly, educators.
Right.
By the way,
Right.
Wayne sent me a copy, and I got, I don't know if I told you, Wayne, I gave it to my boss, Dave Decatur, Sheriff Decatur in Stafford. So I said, you and we had a discussion about this, and Decatur has proactively acted with their county commissioners in Stafford County to establish a comprehensive and effective system of law enforcement placement in all schools. And I mean qualified people. This isn't just
Mm.
like some guy you hire and hope for the best. It's like, no, there's a training program. They brought in former members of the military to train them to be prepared, and it's very pragmatic. And this is the thing too. I think to your point, this should be an investment that's made no matter what. What is the price of a child's life? What is the price of failure? And this is the thing.
Mhm.
I hope I'm sure you must be very polite about it because I know you personally and you're a great guy. But man, I mean, these people have to understand the price of failure is not only tragedy. It's like you're literally failing as an educator to do that thing you're supposed to, which is protect that child and allow them a path to life.
Yep.
If you fail on this, there's no path to life, right? I mean,
Right.
Oh,
Plus, it's been proven, Tony, that Elizabeth, that kids that feel secure in a school will learn better.
yeah,
They'll
Yes, they do.
relax. They'll learn better. So there's a bunch of reasons why kids get hurt in schools, but there's not one good reason. You can secure a school. We can protect the president. We can protect the vice president, et cetera, et cetera. Kids are just as important. Our children are just as important as the president. So by God, we need to
Mhm.
protect.
oh, then you have the
Yep,
other
you're right.
question
Yeah.
here. You have all these administrators who find other ways. Now you said kids need to feel safe. Well, that means a lot. That means something very different to Elizabeth, Tony, and Wayne and Chris here than it does to some, let's just say, school district administrators. I live in the Middletown School District. That's where I grew up, Middletown, New York School
Mhm.
District. We have a superintendent that tried to kind of brush aside a major incident from last year, and there were some other smaller ones. It was terrible. There were threats
Hmm.
and everything. There was a stabbing in the school and all of that. But what happens is this woman tries to kind of hide everything, all the problems they're having, by dressing it up a little bit. She refers to the students as scholars, figuring, well, if you call them scholars, they're going to act like scholars. Well, that's not going to happen. You can't just put a label on something and hope all the bad things can go away. Because if you're sure she has a nice place, she's living far away from what's going on in the hallways. But on the front lines, the teachers are the ones that have to protect their students and have them hide under them, under
Mhm.
desks or things like that when another lockdown takes place.
Mhm.
These are things that there's I believe there's a disconnect between a lot of administrations or administrative types and people on the front lines who understand that there's a security need in these schools. What are your thoughts
Oh,
on that?
that's a great point. Yeah.
No, 100%. But look, in Texas and in Florida, the law requires an armed either guardian program that's trained by law enforcement or law enforcement to be in the school every time. Unlike Uvalde, remember they had 6 schools and 4 people that would rotate. Okay, so in Florida
Right.
Florida and Texas require an assessment tool be filled out by the administrator. And in Florida, there's like 50 or 60 agents of the Department of Education that go around and check the schools to make sure they're doing that. So they're really out front in terms of doing that. Private schools typically have more resources, and a lot of people move their kids to private schools. And I recommend that. If you ask those questions, who's in charge of security as your parent or grandparent? Who's in charge of security? What are you doing? What about this? What about that? And if you get an answer like, well, we have a committee, right? A committee. That's
That's not a good answer. Yeah.
It's appearances, it's optics over action.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's today's, I'm going to say it, today's Democrat Party, but it's also
Mhm.
today's left. And that's who's running the school systems here. This is what we're seeing. Oh, everything looks so nice. Look at all the nice little decorations we put up in the school about
Mhm.
diversity. Well, let's just say nobody gives a rat's nose about diversity or anything else unless our kids come out prepared for the real world and safe.
Right.
Those are the 2 things that people want: an education, the kids to have an education, and the kids to be safe in the schools. They don't care about all the other fluff. Apparently, that's too important to the higher ups.
I was at a public school in Colorado, and they told me they had a security committee. Don't worry, Wayne, we have a security committee. Well, who's on the committee? Well, there's a bunch of teachers and the dean. I said, well,
Oh.
have you
People
invited?
who don't own weapons. People
Well,
who
wait,
never
wait,
used a weapon. Right.
is this a blue ribbon panel? Are you
Yes, it's
saying?
a blue ribbon panel. And I said, well, okay,
Oh.
have you invited local law enforcement to train at your school after hours? No. Does local law enforcement have a master key to your school? No. I said, well, since you have a security committee, I'm going to do appendectomies in the parking lot on the weekend because I know as much about doing appendectomies as you do about security. They
Yes,
didn't
but-
like they didn't like that too much.
But it's cheaper.
Or vasectomy. Because they gave free vasectomies at the DNC. You could have done that. Yeah.
I'll tell you
Oh,
about another school. Did an assessment
Snip,
of school.
snip.
Did an assessment of school in
So, well, Wayne, I think we've stumbled on something here that we could all probably agree upon. Instead of
That's a
when
great
you go
point.
out and you talk to these folks, if you consider trying to encourage those committees, especially the Democrat males, to having vasectomy, so maybe they can end the tragedy of the weak male, and actually, I think eliminating the beta males would probably be a big security bonus. Don't you guys think?
You can get rid of the soy
Really?
boys.
the soy
I
boy.
mean, yeah, the
Yes,
soy
get
boy.
rid of
I
them.
mean,
I love that expression. Soy boys.
Did
Well,
you
no,
see that? Did you see that meme that was going around about when your last drop of testosterone leaves you, and there's a guy, some soy boy holding a Kamala Harris sign and holding some kind of whatever,
Yes.
and with a big
Oh, that's
soy face?
hysterical. And he's got a Starbucks in his hand. Yes.
That's
Oh,
it.
that's
That's what it
so
was.
funny.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
Yes.
one of
When
the
your
things.
last drop of testosterone has left your body. Yeah.
Yeah, Tony, you'll remember this. One of the things that Secretary Rumsfeld used to say a lot, it was in his book, is that A's hire A's and B's hire C's.
Yep.
So at those schools where you have a bunch of B's that hire C's and D's, and then we have these issues. There's a school in Texas called St. Mary's Hall. It's in Austin, Texas, a private school. They hired the recently retired, this has been a couple years, Secret Service supervisor. And they said, you're the guy, you know about protecting the president. We want you to protect our kids the same way. It's called St. Mary's Hall. The headmaster there is a guy named Len Miller, and the security guy is John Kane. And that place is like that. There's nothing I could advise them to do to correct it. And because of that, that positive security has resulted in marketing. They're packed. They have more kids coming in, more families, because parents want to send their kids to school first to be safe in this environment today, and then secondly to get a good education. So that's a perfect example.
That's
Well,
excellent. Yeah.
Well, it is time to have some fun here, and I'm
Ooh.
glad you're here for this one, Wayne. What we
Uh-oh.
do is a traditional. Our tradition
fun.
continues. Tony's Takes.
Oh yeah,
And Tony's Takes is
Tony's
powered
Takes.
by, yes, that's right, and powered by Sig Sauer. Never settle.
never
And I
said.
never
Never
settle
settle.
because I give Tony's Takes to Tony, Elizabeth, and now Wayne. This is great.
Yeah.
The opposite of settling. So let's go with it.
All right.
After a mediocre debate all around, Tony, but a better than expected performance from Ms. Harris, the vice president seems to, on the surface, want a second debate. Is that a good idea, a good or bad
Oh.
idea for her, Tony?
Well, I think it's a great idea, and here's why. She will have an opportunity to show the world her other face, because if you recall, you just saw that one Joker-like face. I mean, I kept thinking of Jack
Mhm.
Nicholson and Batman and Joker. It's like that smile, that kind of cringe. So maybe she'll do the other angle this time. So I think anytime you can expose her face, that's a good thing. What do y'all think?
Well, would that make Cesar Romero's Joker more like Michelle Obama because you can see his mustache under the makeup?
I don't know. Did he wear
Oh.
a athletic supporter to hide his junk during the filming? I don't know.
I think
Oh.
Cesar Romero was all man when he was Joker, so I
That's
don't
true.
think he was hiding
Well,
anything.
I think the other person
I
you
think it
mentioned is
would
pretty
probably be
manly
good.
too. Just saying. So
Yeah. I think it would be good for them to have another debate. But they definitely need to have someone other than David Muir and Lindsay, what's her face, to be the
What's-her-face.
moderators.
I
Yeah,
forgot
they
that
never
bug's name
once
too.
fact checked Kamala. They only fact checked Trump, and several
yeah,
people
5
said it last
times.
night and
Yeah.
again this morning. Trump was actually it ended up being a debate against 3 people, not just one person. It's like that's a shame.
Right, it's a
Yeah.
tradition now.
I just don't understand.
It's a tradition now.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't understand why it is that, Trump he gave like several options. I think one was on Fox News, and Kamala said, "Oh no, I won't do that." So Trump says, "Okay, I'll do what you want to do." At some point, Trump's just going to have to say, and I don't care what the mainstream media says, he's going to have to say, "I'm not going to do the next debate on any left-leaning network. We're going to do it where I want to do it. And if you refuse, then we won't do it at all." That's what he really needs to say. I think he's just being a little bit too nice, but
They
that's just
need two
my.
debates.
Oh, and the other thing is her posing with her hand on her chin. She's trying
Yeah,
to
it
make
was.
herself look like she's so important.
A thinker.
Like, look at me. I'm so presidential. No, you're not. Anyway. Sorry, that just annoyed me.
Well, again, but is it good for her? And I think that's the question. Wayne, what do you think? Would it be good for her to do another debate?
Well, it'd be good for her if it went like
Yeah.
last night, but it would be nice to have a fair and impartial media
Yes.
source asking the questions. And you know what?
There you go.
How about an even amount of fact checks? Reminded me of years ago of Mitt Romney and
Candy
that
Crowley.
by Candy. She was wrong, and he didn't say, "Wait a minute, I know you're wrong. I'm right." So we'll see.
Well,
Mhm.
that's interesting. The fact checks were dubious too, but again, this is not Chris's takes; it's Tony's takes. So let's
Oh,
do
the thing
another.
about the cats. Oh my gosh.
Well, as I said, yeah, basically what Muir was saying was, well, we checked on that. Some politician, the city manager, actually told us, no, that's not happening. So instead of sending journalists out to corroborate that and double check, we decided to take his word as the word of God. That's basically what it is. But
It was
Exactly. Yeah.
embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
right.
It's like, yeah, we call someone and they said you're wrong.
City manager is
Yeah.
trying to protect it.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
called them. Nobody said there were any cats missing. Really,
Yep.
Yeah.
no cats.
There
are
you go.
missing.
Speaking
The
of
gov-
cats,
the governor of Colorado that says we don't have gangs here. So that all that video,
That's right.
those must be Hollywood actors trying to break into places with guns.
And by the way, he does a great
I want
rendition
that
of
job.
Feliz Navidad. By the way, he's like, I don't know why he's not on Broadway. Just saying.
here you go.
Anyway, sorry, Chris. You have another one.
I have another one for you. Taylor Swift steps
Yes.
out of the shadows and she endorses Kamala Harris. No surprise here. This could bring in some 18 and 19-year-olds. That's fine. The believers will be out there voting for her. But could it be a turnoff to others?
I
Well,
think so.
Taylor Swift is kind of her own woman. I mean, if you put she and
Yep.
Michelle Obama on stage together, that could be quite the stage show, and they could like do their own tune. You know, she's got a number of songs that she's made about bad relationships, and maybe see this is my idea on this: Lady Gaga, Britney Spears, Michelle Obama. It could be like a trio, the
Mm.
good, the bad, the the ballsy
You're trying to not say ugly.
and the
You're
boisterous.
trying to
Oh, I
not
said
say
ballsy.
ugly.
I said ballsy.
Destiny's grandmothers.
Destiny's grandmothers. That would be good. There you go. That's a hey-o.
Oh, that's very good.
See, and
Oh my
people
gosh.
thought we
But,
sent Chris to Ed McMahon school for nothing.
That's right. I
but like,
lifted
who
weights, so I
cares
can lift
what
those big
Taylor
checks, you know?
Swift thinks? Seriously. I was listening to Mike Slater this morning, and he was saying, seriously, is Taylor Swift an influential person in your life? Ask the average person, who's the most influential person in your life? Most likely they'll say their mother, their brother, their boyfriend, their spouse. Is Taylor Swift anybody's most influential person in their life? I don't think so. It's like, yeah, that's a good point. Of course, they have to give it media attention because that's just what they do, you know.
Well, nobody's as influential as Norman Fell. The man's a comic genius. I mean, think about it. He's the funniest guy, and every time he cracks a joke, or at least on the one show, he would look at the camera and smile and laugh. And that was just the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
No other great comedian could do that. No other great actor could do that. Only Norman Fell. The man was a genius.
He would laugh at his own
He
jokes,
was.
even if nobody else
Suzanne
would. Yeah.
Summers was a friend of mine too before she passed. So it's,
Yes.
5 degrees
right.
of Kevin Bacon and all. So there you go.
Quick one
Yeah.
for you. We got a couple minutes left. Quick one, couple minutes
Okay.
left.
All right, go
Notorious
ahead, Chris.
Notorious whiny liberal in need of attention, Rainn Wilson, says he's quitting X over discussion about the new culinary
No.
choices coming out of a newly moved in population in Springfield, Ohio.
No.
Are you going to miss him, really?
So I just believe that
Oh my
his high
God.
watermark as his career was being on The Office. and I think it's all downhill
I think
from that.
so.
If I were him, I would live off those the remittance
The
on that,
royalties.
off the royalties, and just be quiet, But that's just me.
Mhm. Go find a hobby, but not, cooking cats. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's something to be said about Haitian jerk kitty. So, I don't know.
Kitty cutlets and the
Kitty
puppy
cutlets.
platter.
Archie, don't
That's
listen.
right.
I'm going to cover my cat's ears. You didn't hear that. Right.
What, you didn't name him Jughead? Archie.
He's over there napping.
All right. So is that it, Chris? Does
That's
that
it.
wrap
That's
it
it.
up?
I guess that's it.
Wow.
It is time.
What a
Crispy
way to end the
fast.
show. Talking about
Wayne, do
crispy
you have any
kitties.
thoughts?
Crispy kitties. That could be a brand. It's like, consider the crispy crab, crispy critties.
They're
Kitties.
great.
That's right. Boy, oh boy. We'll get in trouble for that. Anyway, so Wayne Black,
Oh.
School Insecurities. We appreciate you being here, giving us an update on what you've been doing, and we'll have you come back again sometime in the near future. You're doing important work that, frankly, the schools either have no interest in doing or no technical or actual understanding of how to do it. So you're doing amazing things. So thanks for being here, Wayne.
It's my pleasure. Good to see you all again. Thank you.
Thank you. And then
Thank
thank you,
you.
Elizabeth. Thank you, Chris. We'll be seeing you guys again next week for another episode of The Hard Truth. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you then.